Good morning. This is Kim Blaylock with SDG Bible Study coming to you on this Saturday morning, May the 10th, 2025. I hope everyone is doing well as we're preparing for this weekend and looking forward to another day reading God's Word as we continue in the reading of the Everyday Gospel, a daily devotional by Paul David Tripp. This morning we're going to be in uh, the book of Second Chronicles this morning. We're going to be in 4 chapters, reading chapters 9, 10, 11, and 12 this morning. So join me as we read God's Word together. Second Chronicles chapter 9. Now, the queen of Sheba heard the report about Solomon, so she came to Jerusalem to test Solomon with riddles. She had a very glorious retinue with camels carrying spices and a large amount of gold and precious stones. And she came to Solomon and spoke with him about all that was in her heart. And Solomon declared to her the answer to all her matters. And not a matter was hidden from Solomon which he did not declare to her. Then the queen of Sheba saw the wisdom of Solomon, the house which he had built, the food at his table, the seating of his servants, the disposition of his attendants and their attire, his cupbearers and their attire, and his stairway by which he went up to the house of Yahweh, so that there was no more spirit in her. Then she said to the king, "The word is true which I heard in my own land about your words and your wisdom. Nevertheless, I did not believe their words until I came and my eyes had seen it. And behold, the half of the greatness of your wisdom was not declared to me. You exceed the report which I heard. How blessed are your men! How blessed are these your servants who stand before you continually and hear your wisdom. Blessed be Yahweh your God, who delighted in you to set you on his throne as king for Yahweh your God, because your God loved Israel to cause them to stand forever. Therefore he gave you as king over them to do justice and righteousness." Then she gave the king 120 talents of gold and a very great amount of spices and precious stones. There had never been spice like that which the queen of Sheba gave to King Solomon. Also the servants of Huram and the servants of Solomon who brought gold from Ophir brought algum trees and precious stones. And the king made of the algum trees steps for the house of Yahweh and for the king's house, and lyres and harps for the singers, and none like that was seen before in the land of Judah. Thus King Solomon gave to the queen of Sheba all her desire which she asked, besides a return for what she had brought to the king. Then she turned around and went to her own land together with her servants. Now the weight of gold which came to Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents of gold, beside that which the traders and merchants brought, and all the kings of Arabia and the governors of the country brought gold and silver to Solomon. And King Solomon made 200 large shields of beaten gold, using 600 shekels of beaten gold on each large shield. And he made 300 shields of beaten gold, using 300 shekels of gold on each shield. And the king put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon. Moreover, the king made a great throne of ivory and overlaid it with pure gold. And there were 6 steps to the throne, and a footstool in gold attached to the throne, and arms on each side of the seat, and 2 lions standing beside the arms. 12 lions were also standing there on the steps, on the one side and on the other. Nothing like it was made for any other kingdom. Now all of King Solomon's drinking vessels were of gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold. Silver was not considered valuable in the days of Solomon. For the king had ships which went to Tarshish with the servants of Huram. Once every 3 years, the ship of Tarshish came carrying gold and silver, ivory, and apes and peacocks. So King Solomon became greater than all the kings of the earth in riches and wisdom. And all the kings of the earth were seeking the presence of Solomon to hear his wisdom, which God had put in his heart. And they brought every man his present, articles of silver and gold, garments, weapons, spices, horses, and mules, a set amount year by year. And Solomon had 4,000 stalls for horses and chariots, and 12,000 horsemen. And he stationed them in the chariot cities and with the king in Jerusalem. And he was the ruler over all the kings from the river even to the land of the Philistines and to the border of Egypt. The king also made silver as plentiful as stones in Jerusalem, and he made cedars as plentiful as sycamore trees that are in the Shephelah. And they were importing horses for Solomon from Egypt and from all countries. Now, the rest of the acts of Solomon, from first to last, are they not written in the chronicles of Nathan the prophet, and in the prophecy of Ahijah the Shilonite, and in the visions of Iddo the seer concerning Jeroboam the son of Nebat? Thus Solomon reigned 40 years in Jerusalem over all Israel. And Solomon slept with his fathers and was buried in the city of his father David. And his son Rehoboam became king in his place. Now to chapter 10. Then Rehoboam went to Shechem, for all Israel had come to Shechem to make him king. And it happened when Jeroboam the son of Nebat heard of it, for he was in Egypt, where he had fled from the presence of King Solomon. Jeroboam returned from Egypt. Then they sent and called for him, and Jeroboam and all Israel came and spoke to Rehoboam, saying, Your father made our yoke harsh, but now lighten the harsh service of your father and his heavy yoke, which he put on us, and we will serve you. Then he said to them, Return to me again in 3 days. So the people went away. Then King Rehoboam took counsel with the elders who had stood before his father Solomon while he was still alive, saying, How do you counsel me to respond to this people? And they spoke to him, saying, If you will be good to this people and please them and speak good words to them, they will be your servants forever. But he forsook the counsel of the elders which they had counseled him, and took counsel with the young men who grew up with him and stood before him. So he said to them, What counsel do you give that we may respond to this people who have spoken to me, saying, Lighten the yoke which your father put on us? Then the young men who grew up with him spoke with him, saying, Thus you shall say to the people who spoke to you, saying, Your father made our yoke heavy, but you make it lighter for us. Thus you shall say to them, My little finger is thicker than my father's loins. So now my father loaded you with a heavy yoke, but I will add to your yoke. My father disciplined you with whips, but I will discipline you with scorpions. So Jeroboam and all the people came to Rehoboam on the 3rd day, as the king had spoken, saying, Return to me on the 3rd day. And the king answered them harshly, and King Rehoboam forsook the counsel of the elders. And he spoke to them according to the counsel of the young men, saying, My father made your yoke heavy, but I will add to it. My father disciplined you with whips, but I will discipline you with scorpions. So the king did not listen to the people, for it was a turn of events from God, that Yahweh might establish his word, which he spoke through Ahijah the Shilonite to Jeroboam the son of Nebat. Now all Israel saw that the king did not listen to them, so the people responded to the king, saying, What portion do we have in David? We have no inheritance in the son of Jesse. Every man to your tents, O Israel. Now see to your own house, David. So Israel went to their tents. But as for the sons of Israel who lived in the cities of Judah, Rehoboam reigned over them. Then King Rehoboam sent Hadoram, who was over the forced labor, and the sons of Israel stoned him, and he died. And King Rehoboam made haste to mount his chariot to flee to Jerusalem. So Israel has been in rebellion against the house of David to this day. Now to chapter 11. Then Rehoboam came to Jerusalem and assembled the house of Judah and Benjamin, 180,000 chosen men who could wage war to fight against Israel to return the kingdom to Rehoboam. But the word of Yahweh came to Shemaiah, the man of God, saying, Speak to Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, king of Judah, and to all Israel in Judah and Benjamin, saying, Thus says Yahweh, you shall not go up and fight against your brothers. Return every man to his house, for this thing is from me. So they listened to the words of Yahweh and returned from going against Jeroboam. Rehoboam lived in Jerusalem and built cities for fortifications in Judah. Thus he built Bethlehem, Edom, Tekoa, Bethzur, Soko, Adullam, Gath, Mareshah, Ziph, Adoram, Lachish, Azekah, Zorah, Ajalon, and Hebron, which are the fortified cities in Judah and in Benjamin. He also strengthened the fortresses and put officers in them and stores of food, oil, and wine. And he put large shields and spears in every city and strengthened them greatly. So he held Judah and Benjamin. Moreover, the priests and the Levites who were in Israel took their stand with him from all their territories. For the Levites left their pasture lands and their possession of land and went to Judah and Jerusalem, for Jeroboam and his sons had rejected them from ministering as priests to Yahweh. And he set up priests of his own for the high places, for the goat demons, and for the calves which he had made. Now those from all the tribes of Israel who gave their hearts to seek Yahweh, the God of Israel, followed them to Jerusalem to sacrifice to Yahweh, the God of their fathers. They strengthened the kingdom of Judah and gave courage to Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, for 3 years, for they walked in the way of David and Solomon for 3 years. Then Rehoboam took as a wife Mahalath, the daughter of Jeremoth, the son of David, and of Abihail, the daughter of Eliab, the son of Jesse. And she bore him sons, Jeush, Shemariah, and Zaham. And after he took Maacah, the daughter of Absalom, and she bore him Abijah, Attai, Ziza, and Shelemith. And Rehoboam loved Maacah, the daughter of Absalom, more than all his other wives and concubines. For he had taken 18 wives and 60 concubines, and became the father of 28 sons and 60 daughters. And Rehoboam set up Abijah, the son of Maacah, to be head and ruler above his brothers, for he intended to make him king. And he acted with discernment and distributed some of his sons through all the lands of Judah and Benjamin to all the fortified cities, and he gave them sustenance in abundance, and he sought a multitude of wives for them. Now to chapter 12. Now it happened that when the kingdom of Rehoboam was established and strong, he and all Israel with him forsook the law of Yahweh. Now it happened in the 5th year of King Rehoboam, because they had been unfaithful to Yahweh, that Shishak, king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem with 1,200 chariots and 60,000 horsemen. And the people who came with him from Egypt were without number, the Lubim, the Sukkim, and the Ethiopians. And he captured the fortified cities of Judah and came as far as Jerusalem. Now Shemaiah the prophet came to Rehoboam and the princes of Judah who had gathered at Jerusalem because of Shishak. And he said to them, Thus says Yahweh, you have forsaken me, so I also have forsaken you to Shishak. So the princes of Israel and the king humbled themselves and said, Yahweh is righteous. When Yahweh saw that they humbled themselves, the word of Yahweh came to Shemaiah, saying, They have humbled themselves, so I will not bring them to ruin, but I will grant them some measure of escape, and my wrath shall not be poured out on Jerusalem by the hand of Shishak, but they will become his slaves, so that they may know the difference between my slavery and the slavery of the kingdoms of the countries. So Shishak, king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem and took the treasures of the house of Yahweh and the treasures of the king's house. He took everything. He even took the shields of gold which Solomon had made. Then King Rehoboam made shields of bronze in their place and committed them to the hand of the commanders of the guard who kept the door of the king's house. Now it happened that as often as the king entered the house of Yahweh, the guards would come and carry them and then bring them back into the guard's room. And when he humbled himself, the anger of Yahweh turned away from him, so as not to ruin him completely. And also conditions were good in Judah. So King Rehoboam strengthened himself in Jerusalem and reigned. Now Rehoboam was 41 years old when he became king, and he reigned 17 years in Jerusalem, the city which Yahweh had chosen from all the tribes of Israel to put his name there. His mother's name was Naamah the Ammonitess. And he did evil because he did not set his heart to seek Yahweh. Now the acts of Rehoboam from first to last, are they not written in the records of Shemaiah the prophet and of Iddo the seer, according to genealogical record? Now there were wars between Rehoboam and Jeroboam all their days. And Rehoboam slept with his fathers and was buried in the city of David. And Abijah, his son, became king in his place. That is going to conclude our reading from the biblical text. Now the devotional reading. God makes people great, not for their glory, but for his. I watch as a gifted pastor not only lost the plot, but lost himself. He'd been blessed with a quick mind and awesome communication skills. He was a natural leader. He began his ministry knowing that his gifts were for a much higher purpose than his own success and glory. He had lived with a deep sense of gospel calling and dedicated his abilities to discipling people in the life-transforming truths of the gospel of Jesus Christ. But he became lost in the middle of his own story. What had been all about his Lord was now about him. He was successful and powerful, and he knew it. Pride closed his heart to the counsel of others that he so desperately needed. He loved hanging with people that matter. He loved telling the story of the rise of his ministry, and he loved giving people tours of his ministry kingdom. This once tender-hearted man became angry and controlling. Where once he led by encouragement and vision, he now led by intimidation and threat. He was a story of spiritual decline, and soon everything he had built crumbled. When I witnessed the spiritual decline of pastors, I asked myself, why does God choose to make certain people great? Why does he bless them with great gifts? Why does he provide them with great resources? Why does he surround them with smart and dedicated people? The answer in Scripture again and again is that human greatness is not an end in itself, but a means to an end. God does not pour his greatness into people so they can bask in their own glory and be worshiped by others because of it. He knows the dangers of greatness. He is aware of how quickly pride in oneself replaces humble gratitude. He knows that success is far more spiritually dangerous than failure. So why does God make people great? The answer to this question is found in the words of the Queen of Sheba as she reflects on the greatness of King Solomon. Blessed be the Lord your God, who has delighted in you and set you on his throne as king for the Lord your God. Because your God loved Israel and would establish them forever, he has made you king over them, that you may execute justice and righteousness. 2 Chronicles chapter 9, verse 8. The queen gets it right. Solomon's greatness is not about Solomon. It's about God's love for and faithfulness to his people. Human greatness is not a possession. It is an instrument given by a God of grace and glory for the sake of his people and the proclamation of his own glory. May we willingly and joyfully surrender every gift and ability we've been given to him for his purposes and for his glory. And that's going to conclude our reading this morning. May we always understand and always hold to that truth that anything God accomplishes through us is for the greater good of God's people and God's kingdom. And it is not for us to boast about or to prop ourselves up or to pat our own self on the back. It's for God's glory and for the glory of God's people. And keep that in mind, because humility and humbleness is a great character quality, because before pride comes a fall. And let's be conscious of that today. Hope you have a blessed day today. I hope you give God glory in everything that you do, not yourself. Soli Deo Gloria.